Welcome to Episode 5. As our colonies grew in the mid to late 1600s, a strange and difficult paradox began to take root. On one hand, people were coming here to seek liberty, the freedom to worship and to own land. On the other hand, that very same quest led to the displacement of those already here and the arrival of the first enslaved people. To the young people watching, history is not a straight line of good or bad. It is a story of humans learning, often through deep mistakes, what freedom really means. Today we look at the shadows of our early years, not to be discouraged, but to understand the weight of the progress we have made today. The arrival of 1619 and the shift to slavery. In 1619, a Dutch man-of-war ship arrived at Point Comfort, Virginia, carrying 20 and odd Angolans. This was a pivotal, somber moment. At first, the lines between indentured servants who worked for a set time and enslaved people were blurry. However, as the tobacco and rice plantations grew, laws began to harden. By the late 1600s, slavery became a permanent, hereditary status based on race. This was a worse time beyond measure for those trapped in it. Yet even in this darkness, the enslaved people maintained their humanity, their music, and their faith, planting the seeds of a culture that would one day define the American spirit of resilience. The displacement and King Philip's War, 1675. As the new colonies, New England colonies expanded, the sharing of land we discussed in earlier episodes turned into a struggle for survival. Metacom, known to the English as King Philip, led a confederacy of indigenous nations to stop the expansions of English settlements. This was one of the deadliest wars in American history per capita. It resulted in the devastating displacement of the Wampanoag and Narragansett peoples. It reminds us that our growth as a nation came at a very high cost. Understanding this displacement helps us appreciate the efforts towards tribal sovereignty and land recognition that we see in America today. The Germantown Quaker Protest, 1688. Even as slavery was becoming legal, the American conscience was beginning to stir. In 1688, in a small town in Pennsylvania, 4 Quakers wrote the first organized protest against slavery in the colonies. They argued that the golden rule to do unto others as you would have them do unto you applied to everyone, regardless of skin color. Their petition didn't end slavery overnight, but it was the very first spark of the abolitionist movement. It shows that even in the 1600s, there were Americans who looked at the state of the world and said, "This isn't right. We can be better." That spirit of protest is a core part of who we are today. The Middle Passage and cultural survival. The Middle Passage, the journey across the Atlantic, was a sight of immense suffering. But look what happened next. People from different African nations, speaking different languages, found ways to communicate and survive. They blended their traditions to create something entirely new. From the Gullah Geechee heritage on the coast of the Carolinas to the early spirituals, they proved that the human soul cannot be fully shackled. Their survival is one of the most fulfilling and miraculous parts of our history. It reminds us that no matter how bad a situation is, creativity and community can find a way through. As we wrap up today, we acknowledge that America's birth was complicated. We were born with a moral contradiction, a love for liberty and the practice of oppression. To the young people, we tell these truths not to make you feel guilty, but to make you feel powerful. You live in a country that has spent 250 years trying to solve the problems we discussed today. We are the descendants of both the people who made the mistakes and the people who fought to fix them. Next Saturday, we see the colonies begin to pull together in a unified identity. Until then, stay thoughtful, stay kind, and remember, light always finds a way to shine through the shadows.